sitting with something lately, not reacting to it, just trying to understand it. Conversations about love, relationships, and choice tend to get loud very quickly. But what I want to do here is slow it down, because sometimes what looks like preference is really history speaking. Let's talk about that. There's another layer to this conversation that rarely gets named out loud. Over time, society has quietly trained a message, especially to Black women, that loving a Black man comes with difficulty, instability, and sacrifice, and that choosing outside your race might offer ease, safety, or relief. That idea didn't appear by accident. For generations, Black men were publicly framed as risky to employers, institutions, to neighborhoods, and even families trying to survive. And that framing didn't stay external. It seeped into culture stories, into relationship expectations, into the emotional calculations people make long before they ever fall in love. So slowly a narrative formed, not always spoken but felt, a narrative that suggests to all women, but especially to Black women, that choosing a Black man might mean more struggle, more emotional labor, more instability, more responsibility. And in almost a night and day comparison, Black women were shown subtly and repeatedly that choosing outside the race might mean more protection, more rest, more support, more room to simply be. That wasn't taught through one message. It was taught through repetition, through policies that destabilize Black male presence, through media that portray Black men as absent or dangerous, through systems that deny Black men consistent access to work, housing, and leadership, through lived experience where love had to coexist with survival. Over time, these patterns didn't just shape economics. They shaped expectations, and some of those expectations were reinforced in quieter ways through proximity to safety, through complexion, through who society believed would suffer less. That's a deeper layer of this conversation, and it deserves its own space. So, when a Black woman says she feels more feminine in relationships outside her race, that doesn't automatically mean rejection of Black men. Often, it means relief. Relief from a story she was taught about what loving a Black man would require of her. And when Black men feel that they're perceived as work before they're perceived as a partner, that doesn't come from nowhere either. It comes from centuries of successful social conditioning that taught society, including Black communities, to associate Black men's presence with difficulty instead of possibility. This isn't about blaming Black women for seeking peace. Please understand that, please. And it isn't about condemning Black men for carrying history in their bodies or in their shoulders. It's about naming how intentionally curated narratives shape desire. Because people don't just choose partners. They choose what feels safe. They choose what feels supported. They choose what feels survivable. And when society repeatedly teaches that one choice would cost more than another, people adapt, even in love. The tragedy is that this framing turns survival conditions into romantic destinies. It makes historical pressures feel like personal preference. It makes systematic harm feel like compatibility issues. But when we slow down and look honestly, we see something different. Black men were not inherently more difficult to love. They were made more difficult to support by American systems that denied them margin. And Black women were not inherently more self-sacrificing. They were trained by default to endure more because someone had to. Until we understand that, we'll keep mistaking inherited narratives for individual choices. Healing in relationships and in leadership don't start by telling people who to love. It starts by dismantling the deliberate stories ingrained in us that taught us what love would cost.